You're listening to the Cash Flow Academy podcast with Andy Tanner, your source for investing made easy. Here's Andy Tanner.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Academy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Tanner. This is where investing's made simple. Another wonderful episode on deck today. Get a little bit intimidated when I'm talking to people. I get so many wonderful people and wonderful guests that are well known. And today we have Matt Doherty. Coach, I'm going to have you give you a little bit of your background. But first of all, thanks for being on the program.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I don't know if you know this, Andy, but I worked on Wall Street for about 4 years. So I know enough to be dangerous in the investing world.
Well, Coach Doherty, he's best known, obviously, as an incredible collegiate basketball player. You know, you were one of the best players. You had pretty good players on that team. You know, guys like Worthy and Jordan. I'll tell you, my claim to fame in college basketball is I was the worst basketball player in the history of the University of Utah. So I have that distinction.
Well,
and I was actually, Rick Majerus's favorite player, Coach, because I can prove that because he would keep me on the bench so I would be safe from injury. He's like, I'm not going to put Andy in there. He might get hurt. I love him too much. So,
did you really play at Utah?
You know, I sat on the bench and got a couple of minutes now and then, but I was terrible.
Wow. Were you there on scholarship, Andy?
Yeah, I couldn't. I went to a junior college scholarship first, and then after that I went up and sat on the bench for Coach Majerus, and I can't jump, I can't shoot, but I could foul. And so he would put me in the foul people, which I hated. But anyway,
that's a skill. That's a skill.
And my poor listeners are used to basketball talk because everything we teach comes from that frame of reference, and that's why I'm excited to talk about your book, Rebound. We're excited to tell people and inform people about Coach's book. It's called Rebound: From Pain to Passion: Leadership's Lessons Learned. And his website is CoachMattDoherty.com. That's Coach Matt, DOHERTY.com, and you can learn more about what he does. But let's get into this. Obviously, you had an opportunity to play in college, but you also had a chance to coach. And, you know, it was funny. I love being around those high-performance individuals. I think it's formative. I'm sure it was for you. When I turned 50, my wife, I told her, if you want to collect the insurance money, just lace my food with cyanide. But instead, she tried to get rid of me. She actually sent me to Coach K's K Academy up the road there from North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
And that 94 feet in Cameron's every bit of 94 feet. I thought I was going to die, but it was so fun to be around Coach K and to be around high performance people. Tell me about that part of your experience at North Carolina, being coached by greats, playing with greats, and then being a coach alongside some greats.
Yeah, well, Coach, I'm an executive coach now, and coaching is so important. Confidence is so big. Encouragement is so big. And for young people especially, but even adults, I mean, people in their 50s, you know, sometimes have doubts. And the things that get in our way are some negative self-talk sometimes. I can't do that. That's too risky. I'm afraid. What will people think? And those things hold us back. So you need a coach who sees in you as a young person, as a young player, as a young athlete, hey, you can do this. Here's the roadmap. You do these things and are committed to it. If you love it, you have a chance. And so then to correct you and put you, you know, be those guardrails, either for, you know, discipline or confidence or a push. And I think coaches, our job, well, the term coach came from the actual coach of a horse-drawn carriage and to transport a person from one point to the next. That's where the term came from. So, yeah. So our job, Andy, if I'm coaching you, is to get you from point A to point B, to help you grow. And my motto of my coaching practice, the Doherty coaching practice, is learn and grow. So how can I help a player, how can I help a CEO go from point A to point B? And a lot of that is listening, encouraging, prodding. getting people out of their comfort zone, being comfortable in the uncomfortable. That is key.
Let's talk a little bit about comfort in discomfort a little bit. Athletes, I think one of the great blessings of my life, while I was not, I've encouraged my sons to play any sports they can or will, not because I really care much about trophies or points scored or stats. That stuff is very silly to me. But sports, and I'm sure there's other areas for other people, music, to have rigor and to have an environment that pushes against you where you've got to dig deep is a huge deal. So let's talk a little bit about the idea of rebound, to bounce back. Because when people say they come to our podcast, I want to learn to invest, I want to learn to be an entrepreneur, I want to take control of stuff, I don't want to have a job anymore. When someone makes that decision, I don't know how it's been for you, Coach, but for me, business and investing had a way of rooting out my weaknesses and showing them to me, where it was really so much more, and I hope everyone catches this, it was so much more an exercise in personal development, you mentioned the words learn and grow, than it was just learning what activities to do. In other words, there was a strength of character that's constantly tested. Has that been your experience as you've coached in business? Can you talk a little bit about how, I think that's why a book like yours is important, because someone's going to read a book on how to invest in stocks and they're going to think it's about the how-to. See, your book to me strikes me as about becoming someone before you try to do certain things.
Well, yes, thank you. To me, a lot of books talk about success. I wanted to talk about failure. I wanted to talk about the failures I had and what I did to try to learn from them and get better, because we all face failure and people don't like to talk about it because it doesn't get you, doesn't get you in the country club. It doesn't get you the good looking girl. It doesn't get you, people don't like to be around failures, but most successful people have failed. They just don't have that on their business card. But when you get to talk to them, when I was coaching at SMU, one of the biggest boosters at SMU told me in the interview, he said, the thing I like about you is you failed. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I went bankrupt twice. Because you're going to fail. You're going to face adversity. And that is the benefit of your kids playing a team sport, of my brother playing a team sport, of me playing a team sport. Because what do you do what did Coach Majerus do when you lost a game? You watched the film, you made adjustments, and you practiced to get better. And so a lot of people who've grown up and never had much adversity in their life, the first time they get punched in the mouth and get knocked down, they're like, oh my gosh, what was that? And so learning how to deal with the adversity, that's what my book's about, to learn and say, okay, yeah, I got knocked off the mountaintop. I was the National Coach of the Year at my alma mater at the University of North Carolina. 2 years later, I'm forced to resign. What do? Well, I could curl up in a fetal position in the corner, or I could take it head on and say, all right, you question my leadership publicly in a press conference. I'm going to go to try to get better. Just like a coach would say, hey, Tanner, you're not a good foul shooter. I can't put you in at the end of the game. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
If you care, you're going to work on your foul shooting.
The ability to rebound. And I love the title. What a great title for a book, Rebound, From Pain to Passion, Leadership Lessons Learned. This is a very difficult time to be a parent, to teach my sons, because of the environment that we're in. I look on one hand and I see a need for systemic change where, always as society, I think the trend has been in the right direction, to where hopefully there's less war, and hopefully there's more benevolence, and hopefully we strive for more equality. On the other end of the spectrum, I also see some folks that I worry that they're missing out on the opportunity to develop some toughness, because they struggle to rebound when there is a slight, or there is an injustice, or there is a time where they have become a victim. If I'm a victim, like let's say that you play for North Carolina. You guys, tremendous success as a team. You get on the coaching staff, then all of a sudden, boom, you've lost this dream job. Now you're starting, okay, what am I going to do now, right? What? This just went off the rails. Okay, now you can certainly be a victim, but that robs me of the opportunity to have gratitude sometimes for what I do have. Could you speak to the environment and the difficulty of both business executives and even parents? How do I fight for a better environment for people where there are less victims, but also teach people not to be victims? Do you understand the sensitivity and the difficulty of that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I do think, the whole participation award thing has made a soft generation, and that when they deal, and I've talked to CEOs, I've talked to executives, and they're like, young people get in our organization and they're already thinking they deserve a big title and they haven't done anything yet. And so that's a problem. That's a problem. And I think that, the victim card, if I would have played the victim and blamed other people, Roy Williams, the coach at North Carolina, who I worked for 7 years at Kansas, would often say, if you're pointing a finger at someone, there are three pointing back at you.
Right.
So in any relationship, you had something to do with it. Okay? You accepted the position. I accepted the job at North Carolina. I didn't have to take it. I brought my staff with me. I, made some changes. I could have managed maybe Coach Smith better. There are so many things that it's easy to say I got screwed. No. What part did you have in it, and how can you improve that? When I talk to people, they have to be ready to accept coaching. They have to be ready to accept accountability for their role in their failure, their demise. And if they don't, they're not ready to be coached. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom, and you have to hit it hard to be awoken and say, maybe I didn't do something. That's why I talk in the book about truth tellers. We need to surround ourselves with truth tellers, and so many leaders don't. The 6 no's of leadership I discuss in my book, No, K-N-O-W, is I recruited a mythical player from Wisconsin named Stevitt. The S is know yourself. The T is know the team. The E is know your environment. The V is know your vision and be able to communicate it. The I is know your industry, be an industry expert. And then the T is know the truth, mine for the truth. And the 2 biggest problems I think leaders have is, one, they don't know themselves that well. Everyone has blind spots.
Yeah.
Your biggest strength is usually your biggest weakness. You're an intense, focused competitor, you're too intense. You're a nice person, you're too nice. Okay? And then mining the truth. So many leaders don't want to hear about problems. Colin Powell said, when men and women stop bringing you their problems, you stop leading. So you've got to welcome that. You've got to welcome the problems. You've got to welcome the truth. Because I say, if you don't manage the truth will manage you right out the door.
Man, that is huge, especially when facing adversity. I think about people that, one of the things I used to love, I coach a little AAU now, is about the best I can do. And I love the time with those young men because they want to complain about the officials. And they want to blame officials, and they become a victim of the officials, or, the coach doesn't play me. And those are such opportunities to say, well, here's the truth. Do you want to win or not? Right? Here's what it is. And, it's funny you mentioned the truth, because when I went back to Coach K's camp a couple of years ago, I'm in a mastermind group, and this guy's a billionaire, and he says, all right, so what'd you take from the experience? You didn't go there to play hoop, you went there to gain and learn and grow. And he says, was there any experience? I go, yeah, Coach K deals in the truth. all the time. Like I'd heard about that. I'd heard him saying things like LeBron, and he has two things. You got to look him in the eye, no matter who you are. You can be LeBron freaking James. You're looking him in the eye, and he has a BS meter that's amazing. And he caught me and my wife in the hall alone, and Coach K says, "So Tanner, how you enjoying the camp?" I go, "Well, it's been great. I've been having fun learning from your players." I said, I've picked up a lot of stuff to coach my kids. Of course, my playing days are over, so it's been fun to pick up. And as soon as I said my playing days are over, he poked me in the chest. He said, "You have a game." He goes, "Your playing days are not over. You have a game tomorrow." He turned around and walked away. I'm 50 years old and I'm getting chewed out by Coach K. I was like, "Are you kidding me? He's like, "That's the truth," and walked away. And it really is true. Even at 50, I came back from that and I thought, okay, what is it in my business? Who are the referees that I'm blaming in my business? Who are the people I'm crying victim at? What is the truth? This is great stuff. We're talking with Coach Matt Doherty, incredible basketball player and coach, now business coach, professional speaker and author. His book is Rebound, From Pain to Passion, Leadership Lessons Learned. If a person was thinking about taking the jump into business, he says, I was in COVID, maybe I lost my job because of COVID. I want more control. I want to have a bigger opportunity for income. Where would you say them, or what would you say to them as they start so they can be prepared to rebound? Because they're going to have to, right? You mentioned you have to have some failure. What would you say to that person to get over those fears and say, look, you can rebound?
Well, I think a couple things. One, you need a personal board of directors. And I discussed that in the book, and I stole that idea from Bob Bodine in Dallas, Texas, who runs an executive search firm. And on those board of directors are mentors, advisors. They're just friends, that know your capabilities, and have had experience in the business world. And you lob ideas out to them saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?" And you take their input, and then you make the decision. It doesn't mean you have to go with what they say, but to vet things, vet concepts, vet ideas, and mine for the truth, and have someone tell you, "I don't think that's a good idea for A, B, and C." All right, now that helps close a blind spot.
Yeah.
And then you now know that might be a hurdle if you go forward. But now it's not going to be a surprise. And I think the thing is, it's a test, man. Business is a contact sport.
Oh.
I mean, it is a physical, mentally grinding sport. And it sounds sexy to say, yeah, I'm going to go out of business on my own. All right, yeah, great. You could draw up a business plan and have great concepts, but okay, now go raise the money.
I'll say it again.
Go ask.
Books like yours are so important to have food for our brain and our business spirit, because I would just tell everyone, investing and entrepreneurship, those two things, they will find your weaknesses for you and lay them on the table in front of you. They will find them. And I would encourage everyone to pursue it, because I think people rob themselves of some of the greatest personal development they can have, even if they're my age, 40s, 50s, 60s, at any age. You have the opportunity, you're going to rebound every single day. Absolutely great stuff, Coach. Fantastic. Most important thing you learned from Dean Smith?
Whoa.
That's a tough one, right?
It's not really just one, but one of my favorite Dean Smith quotes is, praise the actions you want repeated. That was one of my favorite quotes.
Praise,
and I think
I'm writing
that
down.
Praise the actions you want repeated.
Coaches have these great one-liners like that. Best Michael Jordan story?
Probably everyone talks about his legendary competitiveness. We were on a road trip playing at UVA, and in the hotel they had a pool table, and he and I were playing pool, and I beat him. And he looked at the pool table, looked at the pool cue, looked at the table, threw the pool cue on the table and said, This table's not even regulation, and he walked out.
That's fantastic. Hey, I thought this story's going to get with him leaving, or he's going to put a chain on the door and make you play until he wins. One or the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic stuff. Well, those are great memories, and I'm sure they were formative years for you. I know in my limited time, they were formative years for me. Thank you so much, Coach, for just spending some time, and thank you for writing the book. I'm a bit of a salesman that way. When I have a guest on that I think's got a good message, I always tell people, I say, if you had a chance to take someone like Coach to dinner and just pick his brain for an hour, would you pick up the tab for dinner? And would you take him to a nice steakhouse, or would you take him through the drive-thru? And it's interesting because when a person writes a book, I've written a couple, and when you write a book, you really do put in what you've thought about, your experience, all that. And, for a few dollars, people, you go to Amazon.com and you get to spend time, picking the brain and learning from someone who's been a lot of places, done a lot of things, and been around a lot of successful people and coached a lot of folks. And there's gold in those books. I've always liked coaches more than books. A book never, cried with me or celebrated victories with me, but I think they're both important. And I think a book is a great place for nourishment and food to help you find your coaches. So thank you for writing the book. And thank you for sharing it with our listeners here on the Cashflow Academy Show. Any final words, Coach, for our listeners?
Well, you have a game tonight, Tanner.
That's right.
Get ready for the game. You got a game tonight.
Yep.
No, just the thing I would leave, leadership is a learned behavior. And many of us grew up hearing that, that person's a born leader. Leadership is a learned behavior, and everyone will be in a leadership position at some point in their life, whether they're the eldest in the family, whether they're on a team, whether they're in a business, church, community, their neighborhood, or as a parent. And so you can learn to be a better leader, and it's the most important topic in any organization, but it's the least formally taught. So you've got to go find an education in leadership.
Fantastic stuff. We've had the chance to speak with Coach Matt Doherty. His website is coachmattdoherty.com. His book is Rebound, From Pain to Passion, Leadership's Lesson Learned. A lot of gold in there for business owners. If you want to know the truth, then pick it up and give it a read. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation between Coach and myself. And we hope you find some inspiration, some motivation, and some direction as you move forward in your business. This is Andy Tanner. I'm your host at the Cashflow Academy Show. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Cashflow Academy podcast with Andy Tanner. For more information on investing made easy, go to thecashflowacademy.com.